Hello everybody, my name is James Davies and welcome to Photo Chat Vlog on YouTube. Now, one of the fun things that I like about film photography are the random effects you can get with multiple exposures and sometimes when light leaks into the camera. Both are examples of the film being pre-exposed to a light source before being used for the final shot. And I had an idea about how to achieve this in a new way, which I thought I'd try out here. So here I am at the Photo Chat Vlog table, and I've got a set of fairy lights, little battery operated LED lights that I got from a pound shop this afternoon. And as you can see, they're a nice blue, green, yellow and red set of lights. Now I had this idea, if I take this roll of film and I somehow pre-expose the film to the lights with a very quick flash, then I would be able to put that film into my camera, take pictures and get a wonderful, random, exciting collection of photographs with these coloured light splotches pre-exposed all over them. Now that's the theory. As for how I plan to do that, well, I'm going to need an extra item for that. Now for a long time I've had one of these, which is a film changing bag or dark bag. It's kind of difficult to show you on this video because it's quite big, but it's basically a black plastic bag. Now down at this end is a zip, and when you open that there's another bag inside, and you can put the film and lights in there and zip everything up. And at the other end are these two sections where you put your arms in. So if I get my two arms in the top and rummage around in the dark, as long as everything is zipped up, I can handle the contents of the bag and they will be protected from exposure to the light. Now normally you would use this for loading a darkroom tank, but today I'm going to try this experiment with it. Now the only thing is that you can't see inside the bag whilst I'm doing all of this, so there's no point in me wasting time filming me doing that. But I thought I'd try and demonstrate how this is going to work anyway. And so for that, I've got a canister of film that I'm prepared to ruin, because we are not filming inside the bag. So this is an old canister of Ilford XP1 film, which is a historical curio, but it's probably no good for taking pictures on anymore. So I'm quite happy to unravel this whole film to demonstrate how I'm going to work with the lights. Now as you can see, film has got a tendency to want to be very curly, and what we have to do is work out a way of wrapping the film around the lights so that as much of the film as possible gets some of the light. That's not a very good way of explaining it, but basically the problem we face is that film is also quite an effective mask. Now film is obviously very sensitive to light, but film wrapped around film will protect a lot of the sensitive areas, and I want as much of this to get covered by the lights. So I think I worked out the best way to do it was to bundle up a few LEDs like this. And I'm going to switch them on for the sake of this demonstration, but this is not how I'll be doing it in the bag. They will be switched off except for the brief flash at the end. So we get a little bit of film and wrap it around itself, and then a few more lights like this and get the film wrapped around those, and then a few more lights around there, and then all the while trying to make sure that the film and the LEDs are reasonably equally distributed. I can tell you now this is probably not really going to work out very well in the lightproof bag, where I have to rummage around with no visibility, but experiments are experiments, they exist to have fun, and they have to be done. So what should end up in the bag is a cluster of stuff like that, and it will all be taking place in complete pitch darkness, and it should all work out okay. So what I plan to do, like I said, is to just flash the lights on quickly like that, and that should have pre-exposed my film. It might get scratched, it will probably have my finger marks all over it. This is an experiment, it's just the way it's going to go. And then, somehow, back in the dark, I have to wind the film back into the canister whilst unravelling it from the lamps. So none of this is going to be filmed, there's really no point in that, but hopefully I've explained the theory. So what I'll be using for the actual film itself is this Agfa-Photo Vista 200+, the standard Poundland film that you could get for £1 from Poundland a couple of years ago. This is a roll that I took out of its canister a few months ago, but I never ended up shooting with it, so this is one is going to be our guinea pig film. Its expiry date is April 2017, I don't think you can see that at close up, but that should be quite nice to try this experiment with and see how it all works out. So, all the rummaging around in the bag worked out fairly straightforwardly, and I loaded the film into my Canon 90U2 compact camera, and I shot the roll in one day. I was out and about in Banbury in the morning, and in the afternoon I met my cousin in Leamington Spa, and he took this little film of me walking around and taking my pictures. Now, it was a nice sunny afternoon, albeit rather cold, and I had high hopes for the experiment, but alas, after getting the film developed and scanned, it seems things were not quite as I wanted them to be. So, out of the 24 pictures potentially on the film, only 11 were scanned by the processors. And the reason only 11 were scanned was only 11 of them had any kind of discernible image. Now, I checked the actual negatives that the processor sent back, and there were just large gaps in the film, which means I think that I underestimated how bright the lights would be when they were that close to the film. I mean, if you think about it, I couldn't realistically flash the film with the lights anywhere near as fast as a camera shutter. So there would be a lot more light falling on the film than I realised. Thinking about it, for example, a camera shutter could easily be 1/250th of a second, and there's no way that I can make these lights flash on that fast with a switch in my hand. Even if you're using a camera normally, if you're very close up to the subject, for example if you take a picture up close about a metre away from a person using flash, the camera often struggles with that intensity of light, and things tend to get wiped out by the brightness of everything. So on reflection, if you'll pardon the expression, it was pretty clear after getting the pictures back that the lights were too bright and too close to the film. The other thing that's the matter with this experiment for me is the issue of the film being a mask. And as we look through some of these pictures, what I thought about it was actually turned out to be true. The film winding around itself does act as a very effective mask. So the first of the pictures that we're going to look through is this one of a building in Banbury in Oxfordshire in the UK, the Trades and Labour Club. And in some regards, what I wanted to happen, happened. So you can definitely see that what should be a normal looking building against a blue wintry sky has actually got patches of green and yellow and red in it. But I had thought, because the LEDs were sort of circular, that you would get these perfect coloured circles, and that is not the case. What in fact we have is at the right hand side of the image is this gigantic blast of light that knocks out the whole of the right hand side of the building. Now I like it as an image as it's got the kind of psychedelic quality that I wanted, but I wasn't really expecting it to be so wiped out on the right hand side. I can also see some regular spaced flashes at the bottom, and I think those are caused by the film sprockets from when the film was being wound around itself. So this would have been the film that's at the very start of the winding process. And the next shot is a shot of Banbury Cross. Now if you're familiar with Banbury you would know this scene, but talking about it left to right, there's a big kind of diagonal white blast on the left, and emerging from that is the statue of the lady who rode a cock horse to Banbury Cross. Now that's a nursery rhyme. You can look that up on the internet if you want to know more about that. Then you've got the church with its dome tower, and then Banbury Cross itself, which looks more like a spire, but is really a very ornate sculptural base for a little cross which is just visible at the top. Now if you look at that flash of red at the bottom and the flash of yellow in the top right hand corner and the green that you can see, well those are the colours I thought these lights would give me. But again, I wasn't expecting them to be so intense, and I kind of would have liked it if this picture was full frame. You know, if there wasn't that big white blast on the left hand side. And you can now see the sprockets coming through at the top of the film from where the film was wound round itself. Now I know I took several pictures in between that one and this one, so some of the gaps that we've got will be in between here. And actually what we're looking at anyway is what the photo processor chose to frame for me when they scanned the film. So this image, again, is from Banbury on the morning session, and it's got that big white out at the right hand side again, and the funky colours are visible as well on the left hand side. Now I'm okay with some of this stuff, but already I am getting a bit bored with the film mask effect coming through. And I guess that where that film masked out this part of the image, then that actual piece of film itself will have been overexposed by the fairy lights, which is probably why there are so many gaps in this experiment with no images on them. Now there is a nice psychedelic thing going on here. It certainly has got something going on, and you wouldn't just sit down and create this as a random image using the computer and try and collage it together. So there is a nice aleatoric, chaotic element to this picture. But again, I have to say I would have loved it if it was full frame, and I am getting a bit fed up of the film sprockets. Now the next one is also taken in Banbury. And there is something interesting going on in the white section on the left. If you look at this left hand side, amongst all of the white, there is a kind of very fine random pattern. It reminds me of when you crack an egg and the egg yolk breaks out in its own kind of chaotic stringy pattern. Now as with the others, the red and the green and the orange and yellow is coming through. Not much blue, which is interesting. And this picture, well, it absolutely could have been better, but it was an experiment after all. Now I'm trying to see if I can recognise where this next one is, because the actual photographic element of it, the stuff taken in the camera, is lost. And I think it's in Banbury, but I actually have no idea. Again, there is a nice abstract thing going on here. There is also some blue finally showing up. And I definitely think you could definitely crop this picture out and make an interesting album cover for something like a My Bloody Valentine covers band or something like that. But I don't really know what else to say about the image. It's painting with light, I guess, but it's like I've dropped all the cans of paint onto the canvas and made the entire mess all over the place and glued everything together. And the next image, well, with this image, because I'm an internet photographer and the pictures I take and share go out across the whole world, well, there is probably somebody in the world who would like this picture if I put it on Flickr. It's actually more of a rayogram or shadogram than a photograph. I don't think there's very much going on in it at all that was taken through the camera. There is a tiny bit of detail. I think what looks like a chimney pot or something somewhere. It's just about visible. But really what we're looking at here is the film masking itself against the film inside the changing bag, and the shadows that happen when the lights were flashed on. Now whatever might have been shot on here with the camera, it is totally lost, because all of the film sensitive material has been oversensitized by the intensity of the light that was in the bag in just that little short blast. It's got an interesting sort of texture to it, and it might be a source for somebody else to make a collage from in a graphics program, but I don't really know what to think about it as a picture. And we kind of got more of the same in this X image with the blurred abstract film shapes. There's a little bit of sky, and I'm beginning to think this picture is from the Leamington Spa session in the afternoon, but I don't really know what to think of the picture. Again, I think if you got the right typeface going on there, you could probably do something commercial with it for a shoegazing band. I don't know. But this picture, I do think this one is a success. So this is the big ice cream cone in Leamington Spa that my cousin filmed me taking a picture of. I didn't think this one was going to work out when I first looked at the pictures, but it did, and this is getting close to what I imagined my experiment might have looked like. And it actually gives me some hope that the experiment can be repeated with some alterations to this technique. So I like this one, I really like it, and I'm going to say this certainly when I get round to it in about a year's time. This one's going to go on Instagram without any question. So the next image is Leamington Spa, and what's interesting about this one is that big sort of ocean wave going on in the left hand side. Now that's the kind of thing, if you tried to do that, if I'd gone ahead and thought, you know what, it works out alright actually, this technique, you can do a whole rayogram of just film laid on top of film in a lightproof bag, flashed with fairy lights. Well, I actually wouldn't be able to recreate it reliably time after time. So I actually have to give my one-off technique some credit for this image. The nice sunny day of Leamington Spa is just about showing up in this image. But again, there's so much whiteout going on in the right-hand side. I'm not really sure about it as a landscape image. Perhaps it should be cropped, I don't really know. Now this one is kind of interesting, because I took it through a shop window in Leamington Spa. I didn't actually go to the moon. There was in fact an art gallery that was selling a large print of Buzz Aldrin standing on the moon. And I was getting towards the end of the film, and I just popped the camera open and took a picture through the window. Again, the feature of the film masking and making the shadow is dominating the picture again. So it's kind of a bit, really. Maybe in isolation, not shown with all the preceding images, it might look more interesting, but I don't really know. But this is the final image. So it was actually the last picture on the camera. It wasn't just the final one that was able to be picked out by the processors. And again, this is from Leamington Spa, and my cousin and I had actually gone in this shop earlier on, but when I took this picture from the other side of the street, it was getting dark. So I used my classic street furniture technique of putting the camera into self-timer mode, switching off the flash and standing it on a box, and then I let it roll and it took the picture. And I think what's interesting about this is that at this end of the film roll, there isn't so much in evidence of the fairy lights. There's actually quite a big area of film that has rendered the image quite normally. Now you do get the film mask again, but in retrospect, it might be quite interesting. The thing I don't like is the store logo, but there you go. So those were the only images that seemed to come back off this film. Now some people would say, well, 11 pictures is pretty good, and having looked through them I can't call the experiment a complete failure, but it isn't how I imagined it would be. However, I'm not going to be daunted by this, because as soon as I saw the pictures, I began to think of how I could pre-expose the film with some alternative ways, and so I am going to try the experiment again. But in the meantime, these were the results of the experiment. Now I will just quickly mention, if you're a regular viewer, that's all 2.5 of you out there, you will know that I took part a couple of years ago in the Facebook Colour Film Photography Group Travelling Camera Challenge, and recently we decided to do it again. So the other day, as if by magic, a camera appeared, which had come to me from one of the group members. So I'm going to look forward to playing with that, because this time it's an Olympus XA, which is a really cool little camera. Now, as with the last time, I've only got 3 shots, so I'm going to use them wisely when the weather is good, but if they turn out well, they also might end up in another Photo Chat vlog. But otherwise, that's been a look at some of the photography I've been up to in 2020 so far. And as you can see, Season 4 of Photo Chat vlog really does exist. Or at least, if you've been following all of this, the end of Season 3 was not the end of Photo Chat vlog. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my experiments here, my adventures in film, and if you want to try this technique yourself, or you think you've got a better way of doing it, let me know, either in the comments, or why not make your own video. Because all I can say is, even though the results are random, it was a good load of fun doing it, and you can't really want for more than that. So if you like what you see, and you want to see new examples, subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see some of my other stuff, follow the link on this About Me page, where you will find a link to my Instagram, my Flickr pages, and other stuff. And I will see you in the next episode of Photo Chat vlog.